Namaste, and welcome to our continuing series on the life divine with our beloved Ranga. Usually, Ranga gives us a summary of the previous paragraph, and I look very much forward to it because it's concise, it's brilliant, and it tells us in his words what Sri Aurobindo said in his. So do we have a summary today?
Yes.
Very good.
So, the summary is necessary because we have to know the context of what he is saying. Life Divine is 1,000 pages. So, we are in the middle of it. We are not beginning. So, we need to know the context. That's why. So, he is, very briefly, he is discussing the changes that occur when you look at reality from different stages, from different ascending heights. It's very similar to what you see in the physical world. If you are at the foot of a mountain, you see only 10, 20, 30 meters around you. You can maybe see 100 meters. But if you keep climbing and go to the top, you'll able to see 20 miles all around you. Even physically, the height gives you a tremendous amount of extra knowledge of your field. So that's exactly what's there in the spiritual field also. If your consciousness, you raise the consciousness from one level to another level, you start seeing things differently. And it doesn't stop at only one. Every level you go, you will see more and more. The reality reveals itself more and more to you. We are at the lowest level, what we normally call the field of ignorance. The human soul is identified with the body-mind life. It thinks this is what I am. The normal human being is quite unconscious of his soul. If he becomes conscious of his soul, the psychic being, it's a huge step already. But you have to go the next level. I call this level 1 of matter, life and mind. So this is already manifested in the world. The second level is the spiritual planes of consciousness, which Sri Aurobindo clubs 4 levels there: the higher mind, the illumined mind, the intuitive mind, and the overmind. Each one having slight differences and more knowledge, more and more power. Maybe even more and more love and bliss. That also is there. It depends on the soul. Then the third level is the supermind. The supermind is where there are no contradictions, there are no problems arousing in your mind. You see everything. The totality of all reality is there.
No morality, no sin.
No, nothing. So as you keep coming down, the reality starts becoming less and less. It starts changing. So until finally we think that the physical world is real, but it is not real in that sense. It's a temporal reality. It is there in time and space. It is born and it dies. Everything in the physical world is born and dies. Not a single thing is permanently stabilized in the physical world. The universe itself is permanent. But the forms in the universe are not permanent at all. So impermanency, transience is the nature of the physical world. And when you rise, you see that they are only forms. They are not the reality. The reality is the sea. We see the waves here, and the wave rises and disappears after some time. And this we see very clearly when you rise to the second level, and therefore you say the wave is not real. It is born, it comes to a certain extent and extinguishes itself. So this is the nature of the physical world. The spiritual world, you start seeing different things, and when you go to the highest level, you see altogether different. That's why the chapter is called Brahman Purusha Ishvara. Brahman, the infinite, eternal, stable, immutable, infinite, eternal, immutable, featureless reality is the Brahman. You can't describe it in any way, but it is absolutely real. That is so real that the rest of it seems to be unreal in comparison.
And we also call it the transcendent.
Yeah. So you can call that the transcendent. Again, we must be very clear that the transcendent, the cosmic, and the individual are appellations and nomenclatures which help us to understand. But there is a percolation of all these three into each other. That flexibility is there. We must understand that. Okay, so I'll read the summary of what he said in the previous para, and then we will go on to the para that we have to read today. So he has been discussing that it's very difficult for the human mind to understand how the finite and the infinite can be linked. They seem to be opposites. Then he also says that the one and the many can coexist, but logically they can't. Black and white also can coexist. They are actually the same thing at two different poles. So to explain that, he says we have to give ourselves three hypotheses or three suppositions which you start. The infinite, eternal, ultimate reality is Satchidananda, and it is capable of stationing itself at any level it wants. It can station itself outside the universe, it can station itself in the universe, it can even come and enter the individual being. So it has this capacity to do this. This we have to grant. We have to say we start with this supposition. The other is it has the capacity to contract itself and make itself as small as possible. And the other is to expand itself as much as possible. So these are the powers that we have to grant to the Supreme to understand to a certain extent logically how these contradictions can be harmonized. Otherwise, it's impossible for human beings to understand black and white are the same, darkness and light are the same, essentially the same. In the forms, they are different. So, that's what he's saying. So, in the previous para, he has said, the third power that we must grant to the Absolute is that of self-absorption, concentration, where knowledge as we know it does not exist because subject and object become one and knowledge, which is a link between the two, becomes redundant. So, at our level, if I want to know something, there is something to be known, there is someone who is a knower, and there is a link between the two, which is the process of knowledge. But when you go to the highest level, oneness becomes a law. So if oneness becomes a law, object and subject become one. And I as an individual will be able to identify myself with that ultimate reality because there is only one there. So at the highest level, that's what he's saying. At the highest level, this power to concentrate itself, there is no subject, no object, there is only one which is all these things together. Knowledge disappears. You yourself become the knower, the known and knowledge. At the highest level, which is the transcendent and the supermind. Okay, so the link between the two becomes redundant. This is the knowledge by identity. There is nothing to be aware of because the manifestation has not yet taken place. In the transcendent, it is before manifestation, before the universe is created. The universe is created by the expansion of itself. It's an expression. So when it looks outward, it creates the world. When it looks inward, it is transcendent. The world is not created.
But when you say you are the knower and the known,
if you are identified with that level of consciousness, okay, and you is your individual soul, not your body, not your mind, not your life. Okay, so because the manifestation has not yet taken place. Then he says, this self-absorption can be complete as in superconscience or the inconscience. There is a concentration inwards of light and there is a concentration inwards of darkness. That's the inconscient and the superconscient. They are very, very similar to each other. They have many, many common factors. One is infinite, this also is infinite. The inconscient is infinite. That is one, there is no multiplicity there. Here also there is no multiplicity. It's total darkness, just darkness. Then that is, as I said, infinite and infinite. One and also one. Immutable, featureless, impossible to describe. This also is impossible to describe. It is immutable and featureless. So these are the characteristics. But they are opposite, but they are similar, very similar. Like the reflection in the mirror. The reflection in the mirror is the same, only right becomes left, left becomes right. So exactly like that. So both these conditions, superconscious as well as inconscious, are examples of the capacity of the Satchidananda, the ultimate reality, to go inwards and concentrate itself, being aware of nothing else except itself. There is an awareness, but only of itself, nothing else. Okay? So superconscious and inconscious, or it can be partial, as in Saguna, Ishvara, personal, and Nirguna, self, impersonal, in the partial self-absorption. So this absorption can also be graded. There can be absolute self-absorption, there can be a little self-absorption, there can be a dilution also. Exactly as if I am concentrating here, I can concentrate fully of it, and I can concentrate so much on the text here that I have forgotten where I am in the room. Even if there is a noise here, I will not be aware of it. That's one type of concentration. But another type is semi-concentration. I am here, but I am suddenly the sound, I look. So it's not as intense as the other one. So there are gradations even in this capacity of self-absorption. That's what he's saying. Okay? In the partial self-absorption, the complete awareness is not absent, but held back in the background, ready to show itself in the right conditions. Much like a storehouse of stocks not yet involved in the processing of goods. This is my own image which I have given. It's like I have a factory. I have a store where I have got all my raw materials, but I have not yet started production. So that's the superconscious. When I start production, I make all sorts of products. So that's a universe. Okay? So just like that. That's what he's saying. These three powers taken together can explain the mysterious ways of the divine Maya. We again go back to the word Maya is bandied about very freely, but you have to understand exactly what it is. Maya is coming from the root ma in Sanskrit, which means to measure, to delimit. Okay? There is, and in fact, all our Indian languages, we have the word mapa. Mapa means to measure. So when you measure the infinite and make it small, you can make a form. So the power of the Supreme to create the world is to delimit and make a form. Everything in the universe is a form. Whether it be a stone or a tree or a cat or a dog or you and me. Everything is a form. But that form is the limitation of the infinite. Just like a huge amount of clay is there, pots and pans are inherent in it. But if I want to manifest a pot, I have to take a little bit of clay. So I am limiting the infinite and giving it a form. So the physical universe is just limitation of the infinite, giving forms. That is Maya. But this Maya also is graded. So when you come down at the lowest level, when you go from level 1 to level 2, which is the spiritual planes of consciousness, you look down and see that the physical forms which you took as real, the stone, the cat, the tree, now you see them as only silhouette forms without substance. And that's true because the divine presence is the reality. The form is not. Your body, mind, life are forms which will disappear in time. Your soul will never disappear. So everything in the physical world is created and ends.
And if the divine is in everything, Why does it end?
Why does he?
End.
He is not ending. He is just getting rid of the superficial aspects. You go today and change your clothes. You're going to wear the same clothes tomorrow? No. That's what he's doing. He is there, but he's going on clothing himself, throwing out old clothes and getting new clothes. That's what he's doing.
Beautiful.
So, these three powers taken together can explain the mysterious ways of the divine Maya. Number one, power of stationing itself on various levels. This is the first power. The 7 planes of existence, as it is easily seen in the world of mind, life, and matter. So, it can station itself in mind, it can station itself in the vital, it can station itself in the physical. And it can also station itself in the higher mind, human mind, intuitive mind, overmind, supermind. Wherever it wants, it can be stable there, it can station itself and forget the rest. That also is possible. Okay? So, second, the power of self-limitation. Example, leaves on a tree where each single leaf is conscious of the tree. This is Sriram's example, but we can also think of the sea and the waves. So, the sea is the infinite reality and it is creating waves. The wave takes birth, travels for a certain distance and dies out. So, this is the nature of in the physical world, that's exactly what it is. So, power of self-limitation. The sea is limiting itself to a wave. So, that's the power of the supermind, Maya. Okay. So, power of self-limitation. Examples, live in the wave and the sea. Third, the power of self-absorption, self-limitation, and now this is self-absorption. Superconscient and the inconscient. Complete and incomplete, as on all the planes of existence between the two poles. So, these are the three powers if you accept as hypothesis. I start from this, then it is possible logically to think, he will discuss that these so-called opposites, the dualities in the physical world, are quite compatible with each other at a certain level. They are not compatible at our level. Kindness and cruelty are certainly not compatible. They are opposites. Light and darkness are opposites. But as you keep climbing in consciousness, you start seeing that they are not really essentially different, but only manifestations of the same thing. Okay? So, now we read the para that we have to read today. This throws light, incidentally, on the opposition made by our minds between pure consciousness, pure existence, pure bliss, and the abundant activity, the manifold application, the endless vicissitudes of being, consciousness, and delight of being that takes place in the universe. In the state of pure consciousness and pure being, we are aware of that only, simple, immutable, self-existent, without form or object, and we feel that to be alone true and real. In the other or dynamic state, we feel its dynamism to be perfectly true and natural, and are even capable of thinking that no such experience as that of pure consciousness is possible. Yet, it is now evident that to the infinite consciousness, both the static and the dynamic are possible. These are two of its statuses, and both can be present simultaneously in the universal awareness, the one witnessing the other and supporting it, or not looking at it, yet automatically supporting it. Or the silence and status may be there penetrating the activity or throwing it up like an ocean, immobile below, throwing up a mobility of waves on the surface. This is also the reason why it is possible for us, in certain conditions of our being, to be aware of certain different states of consciousness at the same time. There is a state of being, experienced in yoga, in which we become a double consciousness, one on the surface, small, active, ignorant, swayed by thoughts and feelings, grief and joy, and all kinds of reactions, the other within, calm, vast, equal, observing the surface being with an immovable detachment or indulgence, or it may be acting upon its agitation to quiet, enlarge, transform it. So too, we can rise to a consciousness above and observe the various parts of our being, inner and outer, mental, vital, and physical, and the subconscious below all, and act upon one or other or the whole from that higher status. It is possible also to go down from that height or from any height into any of these lower states and take its limited light or its obscurity as our place of working, while the rest that we are is either temporarily put away or put behind, or else kept as a field of reference from which we can get support, sanction, or light and influence, or as a status into which we can ascend or recede, and from it observe the inferior movements. Or we can plunge into trance, get within ourselves, and be conscious there while all outward things are excluded. Or we can go beyond even this inner awareness and lose ourselves in some deeper other consciousness or some high superconscious. There is also a pervading equal consciousness into which we can enter and see all ourselves with one enveloping glance, or omnipresent awareness, one and indivisible. All this which looks strange and abnormal, or may seem fantastic to the surface reason, acquainted only with our normal status of limited ignorance and its movements, divided from our inner higher and total reality, becomes easily intelligible and admissible in the light of the larger reason and logic of the infinite, or by the admission of the greater illimitable powers of the self, the spirit in us, which is of one essence with the infinite. This whole para is actually, he is describing the spiritual experience. We can stand and be aware of all these planes at the same time. That's what he's explaining. It's very interesting how different people can have different spiritual experiences.
Is it the witness consciousness?
That's right. That is one of them. But that witness consciousness can do all sorts of things. It can be aware only of itself. It can be aware of itself and the world. It can be aware also of entering into the world and trying to change. So we'll discuss all this. The yogi can do so many things. So we'll look at each one and see what he's saying, and we'll try and give examples also of these states of consciousness that he's talking about. Okay, it's a very interesting paragraph. Actually, it's more yoga than philosophy here. But he has given you the philosophical background first, that the supreme reality can station itself anywhere. It can limit itself. It can absorb itself. So these three powers, you can experience, a yogi can experience all of them, one by one. And when you experience that, what happens? That's what he's explaining. So let's look at each sentence. This throws light incidentally on the opposition made by our minds between pure consciousness, pure existence, pure bliss, and the abundant activity, the manifold application, the endless vicissitudes of being, consciousness and delight of being that takes place in the universe. So, level 1, multiplicity. Our normal consciousness here, matter, life and mind. This is level 1. Okay, we are ignorant, we see the many and we think it is all true and real. This is what we think. We are not even aware of the other planes of consciousness. Level 2, your soul or your consciousness Some philosophies make a difference between soul and consciousness. Some philosophies don't. They say soul is consciousness. Some say soul has consciousness. So that's a question of words. Okay, so we won't go into that. But your soul or consciousness can escape from the prison of body, mind, life. You are in level 2. And when you are in level 2, you see oneness. You see the opposite of what you are seeing in the level 1. Okay. So this is what he's saying. Is this capacity of the Supreme to make different levels and go into different conditions explains why we see this difference. That's what he's saying. This throws light, incidentally, on the opposition made by our minds between pure consciousness, pure existence, pure bliss, and abundant activity. So, pure consciousness, pure existence, pure bliss is level 2, spiritual planes of consciousness. Now, let's look very carefully at what he's saying. Pure consciousness, awareness.
Sat. Sat.
Sat.
Existence, Sat.
Yeah, Sat.
Chit.
That's right. So, but this consciousness is a substance that we have to understand. It's not something abstract. It is like a stone which is conscious of itself. But the stone is gross. Pure consciousness is the subtlest substance. And he uses the word existence for the subtlest of substance.
Yes.
We all have an idea that the divine is vague and without substance. It is airy fairy. No, it's a substance. It's a subtle substance. And that subtle substance starts becoming grosser and grosser and grosser and grossest. Where? In matter, there's something even more gross. In the inconscient.
But it's still the divine.
Yes. Yes, because that capacity, he has to go anywhere he wants. Okay. So we think of matter, there is consciousness and force in it. We know that. Because now we know how to extract power from matter. So there is a power. And if power is there, automatically consciousness is there. Because they are all the same. Sat is substance, Chit is consciousness, Shakti is power, and bliss. They are all the same at the highest level. But when they come down, the principle of one becoming the many applies, and you see that they are all different. You can have substance without consciousness. You can have consciousness without bliss. You can have consciousness without power also. And you can have only power without consciousness. All these things are possible here.
So, in the matter of the body, when Mother was working on the transformation of the cells,
Yes,
she said there was a mind of the cells.
that's right. Everything is there. Because, as I said, each one is involved in the other. It is only limiting itself. In the supermind, the possibility of matter, life and mind is there. Just like the seed contains the tree, but is not yet manifesting it. So the seed contains the tree. Leaves, fruits, flowers are there in the seed. The seed is the supermind. It has the capacity to produce all these things. So Mother is working on the cells of her body because she has to bring down the divine consciousness into her own cells. We can go into another, but it will take 10-15 minutes again to explain what she was doing. Okay.
It would be good.
Okay. Then I'll start from the other side. Okay. I'll start from matter. In evolution, matter was the only thing for a long time. At some point, we don't know exactly when, but life emerged from matter. Okay. So life emerged. So what is life? It is life, mind, supermind, all this is contained in the matter. It is slowly expressing itself. Evolution. Because there has been an involution, there is an evolution. Nothing can come out of nothing, is a principle. But if something is there hidden, it can come out. And even in the darkness, what is darkness? It is light compressed. So light wants to come out and go back to its original status. That's why there is evolution. The divine is there even in the undivine matter, and so he comes out. But he comes out with great difficulty. So the evolution is very, very slow. So when life comes, what is a life form? It is matter into which life has been put. I'm going reverse way, then you will really understand what Mother was doing. All animals, all living creatures are matter into which life has been put. Clear? There can be no animal without matter. Can't. There has to be matter. Then, now you come to mind. Human beings. We are capable of thought. Which is our organ of thought? The brain. Is brain not matter? If you don't have brain, someone is born without brain, he will not be able to think. But it is matter into which the capacity of mind has been put in. So you have lifed matter, you have mentalized matter. Matter is changing and becoming something more and more gross. When you go to the spiritual mind, spiritual level, it is spirit which has entered into matter. Now what is Mother doing? She is trying to go one more step and she is trying to put spirit into matter. That has not yet been done. Maximum we have gone up to the second level, spirit has been put into matter. But Mother wants supermind to go into matter. That's why she is working on her cell. That has not yet been done. So that will be the supramental substance when that happens.
She did say that she had transformed certain cells.
Oh yes, partially the work was done. But Srivada says that it has to be done on a large scale for its effect to take place. If one person does it, it may not have the power to transform on a large scale.
But can it not transmute to others?
Yes, that is the evolution that is taking place. That's what will happen. So that's what she was doing. So, okay, so we have pure consciousness, pure existence. When Srivada uses the word existence, he means subtlest of substance. Okay, and he uses the word substance to mean a slightly less subtle form of matter. And matter, when he uses the word, it means the grossest of substance. So matter, substance and existence is all the same in 3 different grades. So that's why we have to understand the word that he's using and picture it. Then it becomes... otherwise, existence is a very... it's difficult to imagine what is existence. Okay, so pure bliss and abundant activity, the manifold application, the endless vicissitudes of being. The vicissitude, the word means the ups and downs of life. One day I am happy, one day I am unhappy, there is a disaster, there is a good fortune, there is calm, there is peace, there is hot, there is cold, there is up and down. Even in the individual, there are moments when he is in a happy condition, when he is not in a happy condition. Sometimes he is subject to misfortune, sometimes he is fortunate. So these are the vicissitudes, the ups and downs of life. Okay, consciousness and delight of being that takes place in the universe. So we make a difference. Level 2, the spiritual planes of consciousness, static. Level 1, dynamic. No movement there and movement here. When the sea is absolutely calm and not producing waves, that's level 2, the spiritual planes of consciousness. And when it is making waves, it's a level 1, where there is movement, constant change, transience. Okay, and we make a difference between the two. But it is nothing but the supreme reality taking its position as static and taking its position as dynamic. That's what he's saying. So, in that state of pure consciousness and pure being, we are aware of that only, simple, immutable, self-existent, without form or object, and we feel that to be alone true and real. This is the experience of the self. When you go to the level 2, when you go out of your body, mind, life and experience you can call it the nirvana, you can call it the self, you can call it Atman, you can call it Brahman, whatever you want. These are all different words. And what are its characteristics? Oneness, featurelessness, no features, infinity, eternity, and immutable, no movement. This is what you experience at level 2. So this is what he's saying. You become the witness, you're watching, so that will come a little later. But this is the consciousness that he's talking about. Okay, we can enter into that consciousness. This is what Buddha experienced. This is what Srivamda experienced in Baroda. This is what all the Jnana Yogins in India, they are trying to reach that self. They'll be very happy with reaching that self, because you see the reality and you see the physical world as illusion, something transient. Okay, without form or object, and we feel that to be alone true and real. In the other or dynamic state, we feel its dynamism to be perfectly true and natural, and are even capable of thinking that no such experience as that of pure consciousness is possible. This is a perfect description of the materialist. So, the materialist thinks that the world is real, that everything here is absolutely real, there is movement, the river is flowing, the wind is blowing, I am growing, trees are growing, there is movement everywhere, slow or fast. But that is the nature of the physical world, and that's the only reality. There is no such thing as soul or static condition or anything. That's what the materialist thinks. Because Satchidananda has stationed itself in the materialist. You can put it that way. Okay? So, and are even capable of thinking that no such experience as that of pure consciousness is possible. Yet, it is now evident that to the infinite consciousness, both the static and the dynamic are possible. These are two of its statuses, and both can be present simultaneously in the universal awareness, one witnessing the other and supporting it, or not looking at it, yet automatically supporting it. Let's look at, in terms of yoga, what happens? When you go to that consciousness, you can be absorbed in that oneness, nirvana. You can ignore the world. The world won't exist for you. Or you can say, oh, the world is there, but it is there outside me. And it is in movement. I can even see it as illusion, only silhouette forms, no substance. That's another possibility. Okay? Or a third possibility, you can start changing. You can see the connection and start changing things here. These three things are possible for a yogi. Okay? So we'll read that sentence again. See carefully. In the other or dynamic state, that we read. Yet, it is now evident that to the infinite consciousness, both the static and the dynamic are possible. These are two of its statuses, and both can be present simultaneously in the universal awareness. The one witnessing the other and supporting it, or not looking at it, and yet automatically supporting it. To understand this, I'll give one example of it. I read this in a book. There is a lot of research going on in all these things in America and other places. They're starting from the bottom. In India, we start from the top. Okay, but here there is a case where a man is going in a car. He has an accident. Okay, and his being comes out of his body. Sorry, not a car. He is on a motorbike. Okay, and his body falls down on the road. Now he sees something very strange. He sees that he is seeing his own body. He is outside his body, but seeing his body. But he also sees that part of it is in the body. So his consciousness has split. So he is up here. So you can be in level 2. You can be in the nirvana consciousness. But there is a link also to the physical world, which you can see or need not see or don't want to see. When you are in that nirvana consciousness, you can be so absorbed in it, I don't want anything else. Oh, the world is transient and unreal. I don't want to have anything to do with it. I am very happy with the liberation. This is possible. But You can also be aware, oh, the physical world is there, okay, but it is outside me. I am not affected by it. So you are witnessing it. You are not affected by what's happening. Even in your body, mind, life, what's happening, you are not affected. The mind is thinking, the vital is having emotions, the body is also moving and doing everything like a robot, but you are not doing anything. You are just watching.
Can you elaborate on one can change it?
Yes, that's the thing. Now, but you can enter into a cosmic consciousness, Swamdo says. So you can enter into the nirvana consciousness, or in level 2, you can also go into a cosmic consciousness. And when you are in the cosmic consciousness, also there are many, many grades. But you feel that you are one with the universe. I see myself in you. I see myself in Gita. I see myself in everybody else. Even things. I am there in everything. That's the cosmic consciousness. If you are there everywhere, then you also have the power to change it. So you start changing. But what you notice is that your power to change anything in the physical world is not absolute. It's very limited. Okay? So
This was what Mother wrote to Jyoti Priya.
yes, that's what she was trying to do, make her power absolute.
Yes.
Okay? So this is what happens. Because sometimes when you are there in the nirvana consciousness, it is so wonderful. Peace, calm, liberation, sense of infinity, sense of eternity. I have always existed. I am not mortal, I am immortal. This is realized in level 2, in the spiritual planes of consciousness. Then you are not interested in mortality. So you are not interested here. But if you are in a cosmic consciousness, you see the connection and you can help others also, and you can also try to change your body, mind, life. But if you try to change your body, mind, life, or even your mind, I want to purify my mind. You start doing, but the habits will change very slowly. I'll give an image which will make this very clear. Suppose I am going on a scooter, okay, and 100 meters before my destination, I want to save petrol. I switch off the engine. Will the scooter stop? No. It will continue slowly, slowly, slowly until it finally reaches the destination, it will stop. But power is not being fed into the scooter. When we are at our level, we are enabling our soul to have these experiences. We are allowing it to happen. Okay? But when the soul comes out, if it says, I stop the power, I myself have permitted the habits of my mind, life and body, but now I don't want that to happen, you are switching off the engine. Then the habits in the body, mind, life will slowly disappear, but very slowly. It's exactly like the scooter losing its power. The permission to continue with your habit of anger or greed is switched off. Then it will slowly die out. It's a very slow process and it is also not perfect, but it can die out. So an influence is possible. That's what Swami is saying. All these things are possible. You can concentrate only on level 2 in the Brahman consciousness, or you can be in the cosmic consciousness. You can be in both places at the same time. You are conscious of this and you are conscious of that. Or you can also have an effect in the physical world. So all these possibilities. Read that sentence carefully and you will see that. Okay. So yet it is now evident that to the infinite consciousness, both the static and the dynamic are possible. Okay, that's clear. These are two of its statuses and both can be present simultaneously in the universal awareness. So you can be aware of your soul, you can also be aware of your body, mind, life. It's possible. You need not be, if you don't choose to be, you need not. The one witnessing the other and supporting it or not looking at it. So either you support it, oh, part of that's my body after all, it's not something absolutely unconnected with me. But you can also ignore it, okay? Supporting it or not looking at it. I don't even care what it is. I don't care for my body, mind, life. I am very satisfied with my soul having liberation. That's a path of Jnana Yoga usually. In India, that was the aim mostly, liberation. So, supporting it or in the silence may be there. Now look at this. Or the silence and status may be there, penetrating the activity or throwing it up like an ocean immobile below, throwing up a mobility of waves on its surface. So some amount of power is there also on in the body mind life. That's what he's saying. See, penetrating the activity. Your consciousness which is up there, it can penetrate the activity means in the physical world and change conditions, but very slowly. It can't do it fast. Only instantaneous change can be possible only at the supramental level. Okay? Clear. This is also the reason why it is possible for us in certain conditions of our being to be aware of several different states of consciousness at the same time. So, you can be here, you can be there, you can be there, you can be there. Normally what happens is you are limited only to one field. If you are in the physical world, you are not aware of the others. If you are in the spiritual world, level 2, you can be aware only of that and ignore the world. Or you can say, I find myself to be there both, like the case of the accident. He is outside the body, yet he feels himself to be in the body. Okay, that also is possible. In fact, Ramakrishna had a word for this. He says there are different types of souls. One soul is Jiva Koti. Jiva Koti means you station yourself only on one level of consciousness, or maybe 2 or 3, and you are not conscious of the other levels. But there is an Ishvara Koti who is capable of stationing himself anywhere he wants and be conscious of all the planes. So there is a difference. That's what I'm describing here also. This is the reason why it's possible for us in certain conditions of our being to be aware of several different states of consciousness at the same time. There is a state of being experienced in yoga in which you become a double consciousness. Okay? A double consciousness. One on the surface, small, active, ignorant, swayed by thoughts and feelings, grief and joy, all kinds of reactions. This is a perfect example of our own condition. When something comes, we are unhappy. When something happens, we are happy. So, we are swayed by this and that. Pain and pleasure, all these things can come. So, when the soul is imprisoned in the body-mind life, this is our condition. That's one condition. And the other, the one which is there, level 2, calm, within, calm, vast, equal. Equal, the word equal is very interesting. Nothing is affecting you. You are equal to everything. Whether it be pain or pleasure or anything, you are absolutely like a stationary. Things are coming into you, but it's not changing. You are absolutely the same. At our level, it's not like that. When pleasure enters into us, we start bubbling. When unhappiness comes into us, we start crying. But there, that consciousness is absolutely unaffected. That's what he means by calm, vast, equal, observing the surface being with an immovable detachment or indulgence, or it may be acting upon its agitation to quiet, enlarge, transform it. So now, here also there are so many things. One, you can remain stationary without being affected. Or the other, he has used a very interesting word, indulgence. We'll go into this because he has described it more detailed manner in the synthesis. When you are in that consciousness, you see your own body-mind life, happy, unhappy, okay, having pleasure, grief. He says it's like a parent who is looking at his child having tantrums. Okay, you have given a toy to the child and that child is very happy. You take away the toy, he starts howling and crying. But you know there is nothing serious. So you are indulgently looking at him without being affected. He has given this example in the synthesis. So here he has used only one word, indulgence. So what he means is that. So you can take a station where the parent is absolutely unconcerned about his child. The child is your body-mind life. And you are the parent. You are looking at it without being affected. Or you can look at your body, mind, life, suffering, undergoing pain, pleasure, and all these things very indulgently. Nothing serious. Let it be. Okay? So, this is one. Or you can also try and change things. Okay? That's what he's saying. See? Be immobile, indulgent, or it may be acting upon its agitation to quiet, enlarge, and transform it. So, three possibilities. You are stuck in level 2, not bothered about anything else. You are seeing there your body, mind, life indulgently. Okay, it's all right. Nothing serious. The pains and pleasures, and even if it be cancer, nothing. Not bothering. It's nothing serious. That's what the second. And the third one is, okay, let me try and change that. That's the example of the scooter. Now, so you are trying to change, you switch off the permission for what you have allowed earlier. Okay. So suppose you have the problem of anger. You say, now I don't want anger anymore. From that station, you say, I don't want anger. Slowly it will die out. Why? Because you're not feeding it anymore with energy. You have switched off the engine. So you become the permission giver. That is described in the Gita very clearly. You become the witness first, Sakshi. You are only the witness. Or you can be, you realize that, oh, I have only allowed all this to happen for experience in the world. So I become the permission giver to the body. To experience greed, to experience anger, to experience jealousy. I have myself wanting experiences. It sounds funny, but this is a fact. Okay. Then you become the Jnata, the doer, and also the Bharta, the supporter. And finally, you become the Ishvara, the master of your body, mind, life. So these are all possible. Srimad has only given here 3. You are calm, unaffected. Or you are connected, but you are not affected, and you are watching the physical world, nothing serious. Okay. What is most serious for us is nothing. It's just child's play. Or you can even try to correct to a certain extent. Okay, so let's read that sentence again, very clear. There is a state of being experienced in yoga in which we become a double consciousness. One on the surface, small, active, ignorant, swayed by thoughts and feelings, grief and joy, and all kinds of reactions. The other, up, level 2, within, calm, vast, equal, observing the surface being with an immovable detachment or indulgence. Immovable detachment, case number 1. Indulgence, case number 2. Or it may be acting upon its agitation to quiet, enlarge, transform it, case number 3. So you see how he condenses all this into one sentence. But when you read other places, you realize that he is giving you many, many cases. Okay, so we go to the next sentence. So too, we can rise to a consciousness above and observe the various parts of our being, inner and outer, mental, vital, physical, and the subconscious below all, and act upon one or other or the whole from that higher status. So, when you decide that you have had enough of all this suffering and all that, and I want my body, mind, life also to be changed, you have the power to change it. The higher you go, the more power you have. The higher you go, the more power you have. Again, we can give an example to understand how it happens. Take the sea. The deeper you go, it becomes darker and darker and darker. So, if I take a 100-watt bulb and shine it on top, it will go down 5 meters, maybe 6 meters, nothing more than that. The power is limited. But I go to a higher level of consciousness, I now shine a 1000-watt bulb. It will go down to 10 meters. So, when you go to the highest level, you have the power to go down into your subconscious also and change it. So, in the spiritual planes of consciousness, the higher you go, you have more power. But then more power is relative. The absolute power can come only from the supermind, the highest level, level 3. That's what he's saying. Okay? So, and he's saying so too we can rise to a consciousness above and observe the various parts of our being. Actually, we are not conscious at all. We can't distinguish between our mind and vital, can we? If a desire comes up, is it a thought or is it a emotion? We can't always make out. But when you are outside, you see clearly the differences. Okay, that's what he's saying. We see parts of our being, inner and outer, mental, vital, physical, and the subconscious below all, and we can act upon one or the other or the whole from that higher status. It is possible also to go down from that height or from any height into any of these lower states and take its limited light or its obscurity as our place of working, while the rest that we are is either temporarily put away or put behind or else kept as a field of reference from which we can get support, sanction of light and influence, or as a status into which we can ascend or recede from it, observe the inferior movements. This is a very interesting sentence what he's saying. If I want to change my vital, I have to start working at the vital level. Okay. If I want to change my mind, that higher consciousness, I enter my mind and start changing it. So this is what happened in the miraculous period of ashram life in the 1920s, when the sadhana had come down into the vital plane, and the vital is full of lights and brilliances and all. So even visitors who are coming were having experiences. This period of when the sadhana had descended to the vital level. Okay. It's a brilliant period. Everybody was having experiences. But now when Srimdo was able to transform his own vital and he says, now I want to start working on my subconscious and the body level, then all the experiences stopped. And difficulties started arising. Okay.
Doesn't Sri Aurobindo speak of experiences just as an immediate help or a grace? An experience?
Yes.
But not permanent.
But not?
Permanent.
No. When you go to level 2, you have some power to help the others.
Mm-hmm.
You definitely have. In fact, that's how Madhava and Srimad were doing. Okay. Mother used to go at night to every sadhak, and she used to identify herself with the sadhak and see what are his difficulties. And now his difficulties are her difficulties, and she has the power to change them. That's what she was doing all the time. But the person, will he be able to keep permanently this change? No. Because that's exactly what happened with, I'm bringing in Paul Richard because he was a asura, okay? Basically.
Mother called him an asura. Yeah. Yes, she did.
And Mother said many times, I used to clean him up. But again, he will fall back into his dirt. So it depends on you. She has the power to clean you up. But are you receptive to that? Or you want your old habits to come back? That's the thing.
Yes.
Okay? So, we can take limited light and obscurity as our place of working, while the rest that we are is either temporarily put away or put behind, or else kept as a field of reference from which we can get support, sanction, or light and influence, or as a status into which we can ascend and recede from it and observe the inferior movements. You can do that. You can station yourself fully there and try to change, or you can descend and come down into this one, into the lower planes, and change it from there. If you are capable of that, do it. But normally, if you come down into your vital, you identify yourself with your vital again. That's the whole problem.
So then we come to the point where if we can offer ourselves to the mother, she will change it.
Absolutely. That is the power of surrender. Just like you give your power of attorney to a lawyer, and he'll make you sign a paper saying, I will act on your behalf, but you must agree to whatever I do. Because you don't know law, I know law, I will help you. You sign a paper saying, yes, take any action you want on my behalf. We do the same with the doctor. When we go, we surrender to him and he operates on you. You accept it. So if you accept that mother can change you and you surrender to her, she can do miracles. But the problem is, we can't surrender that easily. We are stuck in our old formations, old habits. Okay. Or we can plunge into a trance, get within ourselves, and be conscious there while all outward things are excluded. This is the phenomena of trance. You are absolutely unaware of the physical world. You are not stationing yourself on two planes. You are stationing yourself only on level 2 in the spiritual planes. And you are absolutely oblivious to the physical world. Okay, that's a trance that is explaining. Okay. Or we can plunge into trance, get within ourselves, and be conscious there while all outward things are excluded. Or we can go beyond even this inner awareness and lose ourselves in some deeper other consciousness or some high super conscience. You can go to level 3. You can go to a super conscious state, not even the spiritual planes of consciousness. You can go even higher up. So this also he has explained in other places more detailed manner. But this is basically what he's saying, that we can station ourselves anywhere because the power of Satchidananda is there to do all these things. It can do. You can identify yourself with these powers and do all these things are possible. Okay? So, okay.
Thank you, Ranga. Namaste all.